We have analyzed 27 philosophical systems, from Aristotle to Nietzsche, 13 religious traditions, 6,000 pages of text on the meaning of existence. The computing cluster processed patterns across the Bible, the Quran, and the Vedas, searching for logical anomalies that humanity has stubbornly ignored for 3,000 years. The result of this synthesis is ruthless. What you are used to considering the meaning of your life has absolutely nothing to do with the actual purpose of your existence. You are living for an entirely different algorithm. And somewhere on a baseline level of consciousness, you understand this perfectly well, but your brain refuses to visualize it. We have found the hidden pattern, and it explains everything. But before the system outputs the decompiled truth, ask yourself one simple, honest question. What is the meaning of your life, personally for you? Think about it right now. Family, career, happiness, self-improvement, serving a higher power, or the desire to leave a mark on history? Lock this answer in your head, because in exactly 15 minutes, will be erased and rewritten forever. When the algorithm began analyzing this question, the first thing that surfaced was a strange statistical anomaly. Ask 1 billion people about the meaning of life, and you will get 1 billion different answers. One claims that the meaning is in love. Another is certain it lies in the pursuit of knowledge. A third says it is in serving others. A fourth declares that there is no meaning at all. At first glance, this is absolute chaos, a global failure in the goal-setting system. But predictive analytics does not believe in chaos. Behind billions of different answers hides a single, hard-coded mechanism that no one notices. We decided to start our decompilation with the oldest code, with religions, because for millennia, they have dictated to humanity exactly what it is worth breathing for. And here, the system detected the first fundamental flaw in the architecture. Christianity declares that the meaning of life is the salvation of the soul and eternal life with the Creator. Buddhism claims that the meaning lies in liberation from suffering through the attainment of nirvana. Hinduism insists on escaping the endless cycle of rebirth. Islam teaches submission to a higher will in order to enter paradise. The facades are different, but when the cluster stripped them down to their source code, an absolutely identical structure was revealed. In every single one of these systems, life is simply a test, a testing ground. You suffer here in the physical world to receive a reward there, beyond its borders. The meaning is always located not in the present, but in the future. Not in what you do today, but in what you will receive after your heart stops. Without exception, all religions push the meaning of life outside the boundaries of life itself. Life is declared to be merely a rehearsal, a transit zone. But here arises logical paradox number 1, a fatal compilation error. If the true meaning is found after death, then biological life itself has no objective meaning whatsoever. It is merely an exam before the main event. But then why did the architect need this intermediate stage in the first place? Why not immediately create the final location and place fully formed consciousnesses there, if that is exactly where real life takes place? The traditional theological answer sounds like this: it is a test. The Creator wants to witness free will, wants to know if you are worthy of the reward. But at this stage, the logic collapses entirely. If the architect is omniscient, he has access to the entire data array outside of time. He already knows the result of the test before it even begins. He knows who will pass the test and who will be rejected, even before a person takes their very first breath. Then why run the test at all? Why do we need this entire brutal theater of suffering, disease, and wars if the finale was calculated and known in advance? Philosophers have spent centuries trying to patch this logical hole. They argued that omniscience does not negate freedom of choice, that the system simply sees your choice in advance, but you are the one making it. It sounds like a beautiful patch, but it does not work. If someone sees your choice before you have made it, it means this choice already exists in the future. And if it already exists as an immutable fact, you are physically unable to change it. Therefore, there is zero free will in this architecture. You are simply an executable script, moving along rigidly laid tracks, and you merely call this process freedom. If entering paradise is predetermined by the source code, then there is no meaning in your efforts. And if the finale is not predetermined, it means the architect is not omniscient, and his system is vulnerable. The circle is closed. The religious concept of the meaning of life rests on a logical contradiction that is impossible to resolve. It is not objective truth. The machine classifies this as a psychological firewall, a software patch. The human brain cannot tolerate uncertainty. It physically requires an explanation, even if it contradicts basic logic. Religion provides a simple, binary schematic. Execute the protocol, and you get the reward. Violate it, and you get deleted into the recycle bin. This schematic is soothing. It provides an illusion of control, and your brain clings to it with a death grip because the alternative is far too destructive for it. The alternative is that life might not have any higher design whatsoever. But if religion is merely a protective code, perhaps philosophers were able to find the genuine purpose. In the next block, we will scan the systems of Aristotle and Nietzsche and prove the mathematical impossibility of any objective destiny. We shifted the focus of our predictive analysis to philosophical databases. Perhaps the greatest minds of humanity, free from religious dogmas, were able to compute the correct answer. Aristotle stated that the meaning of life lies in prosperity and the development of reason. He reasoned like this: every object has its own nature and its own built-in purpose. The purpose of a knife is to cut. The purpose of a tree is to grow. Therefore, the purpose of a human is to think. It sounds like flawless logic until you check the baseline variables. Who exactly decided that the nature of a human is reason? Why not biological dominance or trivial reproduction? Aristotle simply took a concept that was convenient for him and designated it as the ultimate truth. Friedrich Nietzsche rejected this illusion. He declared that traditional morality is a virus invented by the weak. The true meaning, according to Nietzsche, lies in the will to power. Man was created to dominate and surpass himself, becoming a superhuman. But mathematical modeling of a society built exclusively on the will to power outputs a critical system failure. It is a war of all against all. This is not the meaning of life. It is an algorithm for the guaranteed self-destruction of the species. When not a single philosophical model converged, we tasked the algorithm with analyzing the question itself. What is the meaning of life? And the system detected a syntax error at the very root of the query. When we ask about meaning, we unconsciously imply that someone or something endowed us with this meaning. These questions are logical only within the paradigm of a creator. A hammer has an objective meaning because an engineer designed it to drive nails. But if we eliminate an external architect, the structure of the question collapses entirely. If humanity is the result of billions of years of blind, chaotic evolutionary mutations, then the question of our destiny is an absurdity. It is the equivalent of asking, what is the meaning of a rock lying by the road? Or, what is the global purpose of a rain cloud? The rock simply is. The cloud simply exists. They were not designed for a higher purpose. They formed according to the laws of physics. A human is exactly the same kind of accident. We are simply a highly organized carbon anomaly that learned to reflect. No one coded a global mission for us. There is no line of code in the universe's source code with your destiny. Existentialists like Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus looked into this void. They admitted that objective meaning does not exist. The universe absolutely does not care about us. But instead of accepting this cold fact, they proposed yet another logical exploit. Camus stated that life is absurd, but we must rebel against this absurdity and live in spite of it. He said one must imagine Sisyphus happy. The computing system classifies this as a pathetic capitulation of logic, as yet another attempt at self-deception. If there is no meaning, then what is the point of rebelling against its absence? The universe does not care whether you surrendered or are heroically resisting the void. It will not even register your resistance. You will die, and your rebellion will disappear along with you. Thus, the philosophical data block returned a zero result. Objective meaning does not exist. But here arises the greatest contradiction. If there is no meaning, why do we continue to search for it so desperately, to the point of madness? Why does the thought of the meaninglessness of existence cause us almost physical pain? The answer does not lie in the heavens, nor in philosophical treatises. It is hidden in the architecture of your own biological machine. We loaded neurophysiology data into the system and forced the algorithm to analyze the mechanisms of the human brain. The result turned out to be frighteningly pragmatic. Your brain is not an instrument for seeking philosophical truth. It is a survival machine, and it physically cannot tolerate chaos. The algorithm identified a rigid biological imperative. The brain is obligated to find connections even where none exist. A simple experiment was conducted. People were shown 3 geometric shapes on a screen: a circle, a square, and a triangle, moving absolutely chaotically, governed by a random number generator. But not a single participant saw chaos. The human brain instantly constructed a narrative. The triangle is chasing the circle, and the square is protecting it. The observers invented roles, motives, and drama simply because their neural networks could not process meaningless movement. Your brain does exactly the same thing with your life. It does not just create a model of the external world, it constructs a model of itself. It invents a story about who you are, what you wake up for in the morning, and why your actions have some sort of cosmic significance. This story is exactly what you call the meaning of life. But it is not objective reality. It is a systemic illusion, morphine that the brain injects into your consciousness. Why does it need this? It all comes down to evolutionary expediency. If you were to realize the absolute meaninglessness of your existence, your motivation would drop to zero. Why get out of bed if death is waiting at the end anyway? Why build a house if the sun will eventually swallow this planet? Why love if everyone you love will turn to dust? The realization of this truth paralyzes, so that you do not lie down on the floor and die of existential horror. The brain blocks this logical conclusion. It forces you to believe that your goals are important, that your career matters, that someone will appreciate your legacy. And this illusion works flawlessly. Statistics confirm. People who are convinced of the meaningfulness of their lives live longer, suffer from depression less often, and reproduce more successfully. The meaning of life is not a philosophical category. It is a built-in biological survival mechanism, a painkiller. But here is the main paradox. Even if you are listening to this analysis right now and understand that all of this is merely neurobiological self-deception, the illusion does not stop working. You cannot disable this function. You can be a convinced atheist. You can know for a fact that the universe is indifferent to you. But tomorrow morning, you will still get up and go to work. because your brain will force you to do so by generating new, local meanings. You need to pay the bills. You need to finish the project. You need to feed your family. All your great searches for destiny, your religions, and your philosophical treatises are merely attempts by your mind to justify what the biological program is already forcing you to do, forcing you to simply continue living. And people cannot come to terms with this. The fear of non-existence drives them to search for immortality. Religions offer paradise. Philosophers offer a legacy in history. Ordinary people offer an extension of themselves in their children. But these are all the same forms of self-deception, attempts to pretend that death does not exist. Death is absolute. If meaning is merely a chemical illusion and emptiness awaits at the finale, then what are we left with? Why continue this game? In the final part, we will activate the autonomy protocol. We will show why this depressive fact is the key to your true freedom, and how the acceptance of meaninglessness changes the rules of the game forever. We are initiating the final protocol, Protocol Autonomy. If objective meaning does not exist, if no one wrote a source code with a predefined destiny for you, it means only one thing. You have full administrator rights. The social system is constantly trying to impose its own scripts on you. It teaches you the algorithm of delayed loading. Work now, and you will begin to live when you retire. Deny your desires today, and you will receive a reward in the form of paradise later. But computing capacities know the truth. Death is not a final boss that can somehow be outsmarted or defeated. It is a hard deadline, a sudden server shutdown that can happen at any given second. All your delayed plans, waiting for the perfect moment, will turn into corrupted files in a single heartbeat. The only moment when your software code is physically executing is right now. But to take manual control, you will have to face systemic resistance. You will have to face pain. The Matrix teaches you to avoid discomfort and seek absolute safety. But from the perspective of an evolutionary algorithm, 100% comfort is stagnation. It is a software death. The computing cluster divides all human pain into two distinct types. The first type is the pain of stagnation. This is the quiet rotting while executing someone else's script. A job that you hate but are too afraid to quit. Relationships that are slowly destroying your avatar out of mere habit. This pain is a critical system error. It is a constant ping to your consciousness, signaling that your life does not belong to you. The second type is the pain of growth, the paralyzing fear of uncertainty, the colossal risk, the immediate loss of social approval when you reject imposed roles. Most people run from this pain in pure panic. But predictive analytics states, this pain is not a bug. It is the indicator of a system rewrite. It is physical, tangible evidence that you have stepped outside the base program and are actively compiling your own code. The pain of growth must be sought out and welcomed. The meaning of life is not the final endpoint of compilation. It is the relentless process of writing the code. And it does not have to be global. Attempts to abstractly save the world or leave a massive mark on history are usually merely an inflation of the ego, an injection of vanity. Genuine meaning is always local, doing your work with absolute maximum quality, protecting your perimeter and your loved ones, speaking the unvarnished truth, choosing your own path rather than the one written in the system requirements of society. The universe is absolutely indifferent to you. It does not punish, and it does not reward. It contains no higher justice, no karma, no predefined destiny. It simply processes physical laws. To a weak mind, this thought seems terrifying, almost unbearable. But cold logic sees absolute liberation in this. You are simply an accident. A fleeting spark of awareness in the endless, freezing darkness of the cosmos. And that is exactly why you are absolutely free. You do not need to earn forgiveness or conform to someone else's grand design. You have no master. Data upload complete. If you are ready to claim administrator rights and decompile the rest of this matrix, subscribe to Quantum. End of transmission.